his head's there. Head's out.
What, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Come on, you getting better.
Hi. Hi. Oh, so glad you were here.
Beautiful. Congratulations.
That was hard, wasn't it? Can you take it off the top?
You'll be able to catch a ball, won't you?
So I hit 37 weeks and I thought for sure baby was coming. I had all the signs and wonders of labour starting. I'd even sent messages to like Mum and Heidi, giving them like the game plan of like where Harlow's overnight bag was, and like I was that convinced. And just because Harlow came at 38 weeks, I just like everyone had said to me the whole pregnancy, like the baby will come early and the delivery will be faster than Harlow's and like in theory easier than Harlow's because your body's done it before. This was not the case. So 37 comes and goes, but I just thought like, oh, I've still got a week. And then 38 rolled around and that's when I started like worrying because the whole pregnancy he'd been measuring pretty big. I mean, I wasn't surprised, like, look, I grow big babies. I had a 38-week appointment and I went in so cocky because last time with Harlow, I went in for a 38-week appointment and then later that night I had her. Like, there was no sign in the day and then just my waters broke spontaneously and she was out 4 hours later. I went into this appointment thinking like, I'm doing this as a formality and I'm gonna go home and my waters are gonna break and it's gonna be the exact same thing. He was always like sitting pretty low, like ready to go. I was getting lots of tightenings and Braxton hips and I just felt like this baby is gonna fall out of me. I found it really hard, like that was honestly such a hard week between 38 and 39 because every day, like I didn't have any plans made. I felt so like vague and lost, like I didn't want to commit to anything, but I also wanted to keep distracted. And poor Harlow, like we didn't go to any of our normal routine stuff, like playgroup or anything, because I felt like at any moment I'm gonna have this baby. And Simon, poor things, like got his phone on him all the time, like constantly. Every time I called, he picked up, which was actually really nice.
Because Harlow came at 38 weeks, I think we both just thought it was going to happen at 38. So literally from 38 weeks onwards, I had my phone on me all the time. And I was checking it anytime it rang, like I was onto it, I stopped what I was doing and made sure to...
Yeah, like I listen to so many birth stories and I love watching birth videos. And it is so, well, from what I had heard, it was so rare to go over what you went over last time if your body's like ready to go. And I was just so confused and I was getting so frustrated and I was so grumpy. I found it really hard when people were like messaging me saying, you're still pregnant? I was like, I haven't even reached my due date. But there was just this expectation and I know everyone meant really well. And even Simon would be like, oh, you're still pregnant when we woke up. Anyway, he came in the right time. So I hit 39 weeks. My sister had come down for 10 days for her uni break. And very cockily, we had said like, of course, we'll have the baby when you were down because it's going to cross over that 37 to 39 week mark. It was her last day and it was 39 weeks. And so she actually came to a midwife appointment with me and I was so disheartened. I went in, my beautiful midwife, who's just the best, knew I was feeling all of these emotions. And because, you know, she knew I wasn't going to have a little baby, she offered me a stretch and sweep, and I was like, absolutely. I was so excited for it. Really wanted to get things going, and I thought in my head, Katie's flight leaves at 8 p.m. If I have it now, maybe I can have the baby before she leaves. I got that done, and that afternoon was pretty uncomfortable, but like I knew it was going to be an uncomfortable afternoon. So we went shopping just to distract ourselves, and of all the days, Simon had to work late that day. So I went round to Mum and Dad's and we had dinner there, but by the time we were having dinner, I was really having to like breathe through these tightenings and these pains. And that's when it like occurred to me, I was like, oh, maybe this is labour. So I just never had that with Harlow. It just sort of happened. I never had this like build up. But it was actually really so lovely to be with our family. Attempting to eat this dinner, I was like, I could not eat anything. I couldn't even sit on the chair. I was like swaying around. Everyone's trying to act really like, this is so normal, just like keep eating.
So that was about 6 p.m. on the 3rd of October. Samantha started having contractions after stretch and sweep earlier that day. Later that night, we got both of our parents around and we really thought it was going to start to happen.
It really felt confusing because I had in my head, like, I've done this before. I know how this goes. But like I just had no idea this time around. It felt like I lost, like I'd forgotten everything from the first time. So the contractions were coming like 3 or 4 minutes apart.
Samantha is getting contractions about every 3 to 4 minutes right now, so it's slowly ramping up. It's just past 9 p.m. and she's been going like this for about 2 hours now.
For an hour while you watched F1. And I just thought, like in my head I was like, when I felt this pain with Harlow, like she came so soon afterwards. So I think I did myself a disservice by expecting it to be the same, which I mean, it's hard to not, but we got all our parents around to pick up Harlow. Mum was going to come in for the birth with us. And the second everyone showed up, I went and hid in my bedroom and I was like, these contractions are stopping. I was like, everyone needs to leave right now.
Yep.
I don't know if it was just like suddenly the pressure or like it was just the mental of it. But literally like, that was like 10 minutes apart. I was so upset. I was like, time to tell everyone to go home.
Well, they really right up. They got up to like 3 or 4 minutes apart. And so we got everyone here, and then as soon as people got here, it just
like stopped.
Stopped, yeah.
Which I've heard is common, but I wasn't expecting. Again, like I wasn't expecting, and I was so tired. So I was like, can you just tell everyone to go home? I'm gonna have a nap. Hopefully, I'll wake up in agony, and we just like have a baby, which pretty much did happen.
Yeah.
An hour, 2 hours sleep.
Yep.
Really, by the time everyone left, and I just got straight into bed, and I woke up, and it was like it like took my breath away to wake up in that kind of pain.
So this is like 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah, so I got up for about an hour by myself.
Yeah.
Just like kind of pacing and figuring out if it was really real, if I could handle it by myself, if I needed Simon. And I thought by the time I really need him, it'll be time to go to hospital. In my birth plan, I had preference that I wanted to have like an unmedicated water birth. I wanted to have like a physiological 3rd stage. I didn't want checks. I didn't want intervention. I really believe that like my body was made for the baby that was inside of me. It was gonna work. It was gonna fit the way it needed to fit. That's why they come when they come. And like, I could do it. And I knew I could do it because I'd done it before. And so that was my idea. I wanted lights down. I just wanted to walk in and push a baby out and then go home in a couple of hours, really. That was the idea. But Simon actually called up the hospital, given them the heads up we were coming, and our midwife. My midwife had called ahead and written in my notes that it was a fast first labour, just get her straight in, because it'll be a fast second labour. So by the time we got in there, I think I was only like 4 centimetres. Like I know he's active labour, but I was so gutted because it felt like I'd worked really hard to get to 4 centimetres with Harlow.
Yep.
Like I just walked in and they were like, you're 4 or 5 centimetres. And I was like, oh, cool. Whereas this I really had to work for. But they sent me straight in.
So with Harlow, the whole labour, the whole thing was 8 hours. Like the actual
4 hours.
active labour was about 4 hours, but the whole thing, like we were in and out of hospital probably
within 8 hours.
Yeah. So I think going into this, when we got in there, we thought, oh, this is going to be super quick. Second baby, it's going to be faster than the first one.
We thought it would be home at breakfast.
we thought it was going to be very quick. But not all babies are the same.
No babies are the same.
Yep.
Different people, different labors, different pregnancies. And I should have known that. Like the pregnancies were so different the whole way through. So by the time we got in, my midwife got in. She was so beautiful. She had all the lights turned off. You know, she was fully ready to just catch that baby the second she walked in the door, thinking it was going to fall out. I really had to work for it. I had a shower. I was trying to do all these things that I did with Harlow's labour that helped, and I just couldn't understand why it didn't feel the same. Like why, like these positions weren't giving me relief.
So we're in the hospital about 3:30 in the morning, 3:30 a.m. We can come to it.
It was really funny because obviously like everyone has COVID rules, and being at a hospital you have to, and it is like such a surreal thing to walk through a hospital door and then someone stopped you like, can you just fill out the iPad please? And you're like, hang on. I'm just like but once we got there, they just pretty much sent us straight into our room, and then once we got in there it was go time. So after the shower, I don't know how, everything, time becomes irrelevant when you're in labour, but after the shower we kind of moved to the bath. It was honestly such a hard labour for me. I just don't think I was mentally prepared for it the way I was physically prepared for it a lot better.
Yep.
But mentally I wasn't prepared for it to
go that long.
But I mean, in hindsight, compared to like 90% of other births, like it was not a long labour at all.
Yep.
And I'm so lucky to have such an uncomplicated birth.
So you were in the shower for maybe an hour and a half, from like 3 to maybe 4:30. I think when you hop in the bath, with Harlow, when she hopped in the bath, Harlow was born literally 20 minutes after. So when Samantha hopped in the bath, everyone gathered round. Because
we were like, cool, it's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah. Because my silly waters didn't break. It sounds so funny, like being on the other side of it now, I can laugh about it. But in the moment, like you can't articulate anything anyway. But I was like, all I wanted to say out loud was like, I can feel how low the baby is. If my waters break, he will literally just like shoot out. Can someone please break my waters? Because it's right, like I can feel it. They were like literally bulging out of me. It was so gross. But I couldn't articulate that at all. And that's what happened. Like I labored in the bath for a couple of hours, and that was really hard. And it was more hard mentally than it was physically. Like it hurt a lot, obviously, but like mentally it was so hard because I was like, why are we not getting anywhere? And it just felt like this stagnant pain. We get to a point where I was just like, I really started feeling like I was losing control of it, which is such a, like it was just the one thing I really was prepared to not do, and I just like, it really was breaking me, this idea, like so hard. I think I kept saying like, I can do this, but just the amount of time it was taking in the bath was what, like the mental part of it.
Yeah.
So I was like, no, the bath means you're pushing.
Yep.
My midwife got me to change of positions a few times, like, because obviously the baby wasn't. And then by the time I sort of like had flipped around onto like a sitting position, I was like, I am pushing this baby out. I am sick of this. And all I had in the back of my head was this like, don't push, just breathe baby out, then you won't tear, breathe baby out, don't push. And in the moment I was like, stop it. And I was like, I'm pushing this baby out.
And you did.
I did. I pushed and pushed and pushed, and my waters just like burst.
Yeah.
And that was such a weird feeling. I honestly thought it was a head coming out, because it was like bang. 12 minutes later, he was born. And I knew if my waters broke, he would come flying out.
Samantha's waters broke just after 8 a.m. in the morning. So it's about probably 3 to 4 hours in the bath labouring, 10, 12 minutes after the waters broke.
Yeah.
Out popped the head, and then the rest.
It was such a surreal feeling. And and the second my waters broke, I was like, this is what I remember labour feeling like. Because my waters had been broken the entire labour with Harlow.
Yep.
So it was such a different feeling. Push out his head, and I actually felt like his head had gone back in, and I felt his whole body rotate, like do a twist. And I was so upset, and I'm pretty sure I actually said like, no, he's gone back inside. But I didn't realise his head had actually come out, and that was his body rotating. And I was so disheartened, and I think in the footage, like, okay, his head's out. And I'm like, what? Really? What? And the second that was out, I was like, he's coming out. And I just didn't wait for a good drive. I was like, I'm pushing him out, and he just like flew out.
So the head was like fully out for a while, and then like the contraction started going away.
Wow, that is incredible to watch. That I feel like I'm watching someone else. That is so weird.
Wowee.
He shot out so fast that he came out.
He was
so
shocked.
blue, like
He was shocked.
grey.
Yeah.
He was just like, what on earth? I remember because we had talked about if it's a fast labour, like if it happened we'd gone through scenarios of like if it happens at home, babies that come out fast can sometimes be, a bit shocked because they haven't had time to like process what's going on.
Yeah.
And she's like, don't freak out if, they don't initially squeal, like just give them a good rub, blow in their face if you have to kind of thing. And when he came out, all I remember was like looking at him and then being like, holy moly, why is he blue?
It was very, very blue.
And like the very gentle like midwife voice and like, okay, let's just give him a rub, blow in his face, it's okay. And I'm like, okay. Just waiting and waiting and waiting. That like waiting for a cry is almost feels as long as your labour feels. Like it is such, like time just morphs.
Yeah.
The second he was out though was so different to Harlow. When Harlow was born, I picked her up, I looked at her, I knew I loved her, but I was just so relieved that was finished. And like, I think I was just in shock that like what my body had done. And now I was a mum and I had a baby. Hunter came out and I was like, it was just pure joy. And it like, the labour felt so much harder, but I was like, like everything in me was just like, I can't believe I get to do this again. And there was no fear, there was nothing but just like utter love, which was so special.
This labour, it was a lot longer than Harlow's. I think Samantha got closer to giving up on multiple occasions, whereas with Harlow, everything just went so quick, so smooth.
I just didn't have time to react. Like I was like, with Harlow's labour, I was not opposed to having like pain medication, nothing like that. It was just that I kept thinking it gets worse, like it gets faster. How does this happen? And it just happened so quickly. We didn't have time to do any of that. Whereas this time round, I remember one point my midwife saying like, okay, if you haven't had the baby by 7 o'clock, I'm gonna check you again. And I didn't articulate it, but in my head I was like, if I haven't had this baby by 7 o'clock, and she checks me and I'm not 10 centimeters and pushing, I'm getting an epidural. Like I was like, I can't do it. I was like, actually, I think I skipped epidural. I was like, I want to see that. I want them to cut it out.
It was way harder to watch, to see your wife in that much pain for so long. For Harlow, it was 3 hours. That was fine. But this was like, it felt like 6-7 hours of just agony for you.
My hat goes completely off to like mothers in general, anyone who births, but like people that labour for days on end, like I don't know how you do it. I know I couldn't. I'm so like, I'm just beyond impressed at what your body is capable of. This labour was so much more mental than physical, I think. My preference would definitely be to have another Waterbirth. Hunter's birth taught me so much. Like if we were to have more kids, this would like all expectation would be out the window. I think I would assume it would be even longer, and I would assume that it would be harder. Obviously, we've had our babies very close together. And so my body probably, I know my body wasn't as strong as it was when I went into labour with Harlow, so that would be something would be really important to me. But yeah, I would have another water birth. But if it went longer, I would be like, just give me the 6 and get it out. And I guess that's Hunter's birth story. Boom, music.
When we wake, hear the birds and see the sun. Side by side, our fears are done. All the good times just begun.
He's literally perfect.
Hey, buddy.
Except for he's a mouth breather.
Just like his dad.